Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Tekking101. This is Barry. He's a brick. In today's video, we're talking about Kaido, one of the four emperors, fighting against Yamato in a no-holds-barred death match. But first, before we get into any of that, we gotta do our ant facts.
And facts about ants and other insects, but mostly ants.
Yeah, that's right. You like the new intro? I'm probably going to switch back and forth between that one and some other intros, but that was sent to me by Felix, so thanks to Felix for bringing that hard rock cover of the Ant Facts. Oh, yes. By the way, in case you're new and you're just like, hey, wait a second, I thought we were talking about Kaido versus Yamato. Are we still doing that? Oh, no, we're still going to do that, but we have to do our Ant Facts first, of course. That's just standard, okay? So we already did an Ant Facts on the giant forest ant. Those were the ants. I think it was actually the first one I did, where they did those ritualistic fights. So those were like a really big ant species. Not the biggest. I actually did find one that was even larger than the giant forest ant, so we'll talk about that later. But I also wanted to talk about the smallest ant species, and to that end, I give to you the thief ant. It's about 0.5 millimeter in size, up to 3 millimeters. They kind of range there, and the queens can become up to 5 millimeters in length, and they're so super tiny, they can basically exist anywhere. So there's probably some thief ants living in your house right now, in the cracks in the walls. Typically, their colonies are not very big because they're so small. They usually find a food source, and then they don't need a lot of workers, and so you just live around that food source. That's basically how they do things. They are polygynous, meaning they have more than one queen in their colony. They can have up to 8, and you can imagine that, right? 8 Nico Robins all living together in one colony? It's incredible. So yes, just letting you know that these ants, they're also called grease ants sometimes because they love to eat grease. So next time you're just hanging out and with your buddies and eating some pizza and you leave that greasy pizza box lying around, you might just wake up the next day to see a bunch of ants carrying it off to their domain. So yes, there's today's episode of Ant Facts. Ant Facts! Okay, so now let's get to it. Kaido versus Yamato, the fight of the century, the fight of the millennium! Alright, maybe not the fight of the millennium. That's probably going to be the final bout when Luffy comes back and brawls with Kaido for one final time, figures out some method to defeat him, which will probably involve creating an even larger Gear 4th King Kong gun, you know, even bigger than the one he used against Bullet, where it's like, you know, Kaido turns into a dragon, knocks Luffy into the sky, and Kaido's like, Woro, you can't possibly defeat me now. And then he just looks up, and he sees Luffy's fist, like the size of the damn moon, like in Majora's Mask, where it's come crashing down. And Kaido's like, no! And Luffy's fist is like parting the cloud cover, it's so huge. And then boom! And then just, you know, knocks Kaido square into the center of the earth, and then that's how he'll be defeated, okay? But, you know, Luffy, at the moment, as of chapter 1015, he's currently still underwater, drowning, so that's a bit of an issue. The Polar Tang and Law's crew, the Heart Pirates, are going to rescue him, you know, but that's gonna take a little bit of time. They gotta get him in the submarine, they gotta give him CPR. Jean Bart is like, get out of the way, I gotta save him, you know? And so, then we have Momo and Shinobu that fell off the side of Onigashima, so they're probably going to reunite with Luffy there. He's got to drink his milk, he's got to eat his Wheaties, he's got to get back up in, you know, tip-top fighting shape and all that stuff. Now, Kaido, I may remind you all, is still a dragon that can fly. So there's really nothing preventing Kaido from just turning into a dragon, chasing after Shinobu and Momo, and probably also encountering Luffy, and then, you know, going back up to Onigashima later. So that's why we need somebody in the meantime to brawl with Kaido to divert his attention, okay? And that person is, of course, Yamato, who showed up in the last chapter declaring to Kaido, you know, not calling him father, you know, Kaido, I have come to defeat you and cast the chains off that bind me. And then, of course, Kaido turns to Yamato like, you're not calling me father, you're calling me Kaido. And Yamato's like, of course I am. You know, I really have no respect for you right now, okay? Which, given the fact that Kaido put the exploding handcuffs on Yamato, I can kind of see that. It's kind of a strained relationship right now, I would definitely say. There was even that thing for a while there where Yamato was not sure if they were really explosive, because Yamato's like, well, Kaido is still my father, so he might have put these handcuffs handcuffs on me and just lied and said they would explode with the power of like 15 nukes if I ever left the island, but, you know, it might just be a psychological thing to make sure I never leave. And so Luffy removed them, and it turned out, no, those things really did pack a punch. And Yamato was like, father, what the hell? You know, screw this. You're not my father anymore. Kaido, what the hell? Right? So, yeah, there's a strained relationship here, definitely. And so I don't think Kaido's gonna pull any punches here or anything like that. You definitely get the impression that, like, Kaido did not view Yamato as, like, a failure or a disappointment in terms of, like, strength. You get the impression that Kaido definitely wants Yamato to, like, be part of the Beast Pirates and help him rule the world, okay? Like, that was kind of the idea. You even get the sense that, like, when Kaido takes over New Onigashima, which is Wano, essentially, he'll go out to conquer the world and, like, alright, I'm gonna conquer the world, and Yamato, you're gonna stay here and you're gonna run New Onigashima and you're gonna like it! You know, it's that kind of idea that, you know, Kaido's trying to instill in Yamato. Yamato the entire time is like, no, father, or no, Kaido, I am Kozuki Oden, I will follow in his legacy and his footsteps, okay? And so, you know, obviously Yamato wants to go out to sea and all that stuff, and so Kaido did the whole thing with the restraints, the handcuffs, so Yamato could not leave. Okay, so there's not going to be any situation here where I don't think Yamato is going to go easy on Kaido, Kaido's going to go easy on Yamato, anything like that. They're going to straight up brawl, alright? And this is crazy because while I don't think, I mean, at the end of the arc, it's gotta be Luffy. Luffy has to kind of be the one to deal the finishing blow to Kaido. But like I said, when they were all fighting together, when all the worst generation were fighting together with like Zoro and Law and Kid and Killer, it doesn't have to be Luffy by himself, okay? And we saw how well that went. I'm just throwing that out there right now. We had that scene where they were all fighting together, and then they all leave for various reasons. Zoro breaks like a bunch of bones, and, you know, Law has to leave, and Kid and Killer go out to fight against Big Mom and Hawkins. So it's Luffy by himself, and Luffy's like, don't worry, everybody, thanks for helping me out a bit, but I got this. BAM! Luffy did not got this, alright? Luffy didn't have this. He got sent flying, alright? So, I'm still a little bit hesitant, even if Luffy were to recover from his injuries, and he even has a new idea. It's like, okay, I know he knocked me for a loop over the side of an entire floating island, but trust me on this one, I still have a way to beat him. I'm not doubting that Luffy has an idea, I just don't think he's going to be able to do it by himself, okay? So it would actually be really cool if the Yamato versus Kaido fight is not just used to, like, buy time or, like, a stopgap or something. I would actually really like this if Yamato and Kaido start brawling in a real big sense, you know, like, Kaido turns into the giant dragon, and then Yamato, you know, has the Byakko power, maybe. I did a whole video on what Yamato's Devil Fruit ability would be, and so they start brawling like crazy, and Kaido gets injured and Yamato gets injured, but it's looking like Kaido is going to win. Like, despite all of the damage he's taken up until now, fighting the Scabbards, and then fighting, you know, Luffy, Zoro, Kid, Killer, Law, and then just Luffy, despite all of that, you know, he's still able to have Yamato on the ropes, but then, boom, at that moment, Luffy's gonna arrive on the battlefield fresh and, like, reinvigorated, and he's just like, okay, I have a new idea, let's do this, Yamato, and Yamato's like, yes, Ace's brother, let's fight together as one, you know, and let's do it. That would be really cool. That would actually be really sweet, okay? But in the meantime, this also leads into a bunch of different ideas, because if there's one person in the entirety of Onigashima, nay, the entirety of Wano, actually, you know what? Back up again. The entire world, with maybe the exception of Big Mom and some of the other former Rocks pirates, the one person that would know the most about Kaido and his weaknesses, if there are any, would be Yamato. Now, I'm not saying that, like, Kaido at one point, like, you know, when Yamato was growing up, Kaido went over to Yamato and was like, hey there, son, you know, Kaido refers to Yamato as his son. Hey, son, just letting you know that, my one weakness, the one Achilles heel I have, I'm pretty damn invulnerable, but, the one thing that you can do to defeat me is if you target this one point on my back. It's kind of like, did you ever see Naruto? Like, the Hyuga's Byakugan has that one weakness, like, in the back of their neck. It's kind of like that. So just letting you know about that, son, okay? And then Yamato's like, okay, father, I don't know why you would tell me about that, but alright. I don't think it's gonna be any situation like that where, you know, Kaido is like fighting Yamato and Yamato's like, you told me your one weakness! tap. Just like, no, I am defeated! And it's also very feasible that there might not even be a physical weakness of Kaido. I mean, I guess he does have a physical weakness because of the scar that Odin left on him, so obviously the scabbards were targeting that, like, that's the obvious weak point. Even then, it's still, like, just because you target the scar doesn't mean you're going to win. It's not like an instant win button. But if you're going to attack anywhere on Kaido's body, you know, aim for the scar that Odin left him. But it might not even be a physical weakness. It might be some kind of psychological or mental weakness that Kaido has that Yamato might be able to exploit, whatever that may be. We still do not know Yamato's Devil Fruit ability. We saw Yamato's teeth grow like the tiger teeth, so a lot of people think maybe it's a Byakko, like a mythical cat fruit model Byakko. A lot of cool artwork was of that. Here's an artwork by a fan named Stefan who drew this. Really badass, of course, with Yamato in the hybrid and the full Byakko form. Really love that. So we know Yamato has some ability, we just don't know what it is. If it's another ancient zone, maybe Yamato has the T-Rex this entire time, or, you know, the Gigantosaurus, or whatever it was called, like a giant dinosaur that could rival even the dragons of lore, you know, something of that nature, right? So there's a lot of options here, but I really don't want it to just be a situation where Yamato fights with Kaido a little bit, and then Luffy comes back, and then Yamato leaves, and then it's just back to Luffy and Kaido again, or anything like that, right? Also, this is a perfect opportunity to do a backstory, you know, a little flashback with Kaido and Yamato. Who was Yamato's mother? That's a big question that's still out for debate, and we kind of need to find out about that, right? We didn't need to know the story of every single one of Big Mom's husbands, husbandos, throughout the entire legacy of Totland for like 40-something years of Totland, right? We don't need to know every single one of those. But in this particular situation, I'm pretty curious on who Yamato's mother is, right? Is she still around? Did she die? If she didn't die, is she still on Onigashima? If she's not on Onigashima, where is she? You know, what species was she? You know, was Yamato's mother a dragon or something else? A giant? I have no idea how this would have worked. Who knows, really? Actually, oh, wait. No, I don't... Okay. The timelines might be a little iffy on this, but I'm just going to throw this out there as a possibility because Kaido is working alongside, like, you know, Caesar with the artificial devil fruits and everything. We know Queen is on Kaido's crew, and we know Queen was around at least 20 years ago. He might have joined even further back than that. Queen, of course, worked with Judge and probably Vegapunk at one point with the lineage factor. Just going to throw it out there. What if Yamato is a clone of Kaido? That is not as ridiculous as you might think, because if Queen, Vegapunk, and Judge all work together and they crack the nut on the lineage factor of like the One Piece equivalent of DNA, and then the world government busted up that operation, Vegapunk goes to work for the world government, Judge goes back to the Germa to make an army of clones, and then Queen goes to Kaido's Beast Pirates. Not exactly sure how that worked, but, you know, Kaido recruited, like, I hear you're good at chemicals and such. Come and join me. And Queen's like, do I get to do dance numbers? He's like, damn straight you get to do dance numbers. Here's a Brachiosaur fruit. Awesome. Let's do this. Zuma, Zuma. You know, so I'm just saying, like, if they all work together at one point, if they were all part of this one science group, like I think they were, and if Judge can do clone tech with his knowledge of the lineage factor, Queen would be able to do it too. Same thing with Vegapunk as well, right? It's just that obviously Judge really focused on the clone tech for the Germa Kingdom. Queen might have known about it, but decided to go more of the biological weapons, the toxins, the viruses kind of route. But Queen might still have had that knowledge, okay? So there might have been a thing. Yamato was confirmed to be 28 years old, you know, same age as Momo, or born the same time as Momo because of the time jump. You know, Momo is still 8, Yamato is 28, but born the same year. What if Queen joined up with the Beast Pirates 30 years ago? That could work. That could have worked, because apparently Vegapunk has been working for the government for a very, very long time, so it's been over 20 years, you know, and so Judge is like 55 right now. I like to think Queen is around the same age, so let's say like, you know, 30, maybe 35 years ago when they were around 20 years old, they were working under Vegapunk. Vegapunk is a lot older than both of them. Maybe Vegapunk's like in his 80s right now, so he's like 30 years older than both of them, and so he was the lead scientist. Judge and Queen were like under him, right? And so Queen joins up with the Beast Pirates, and then, like, you know, I have, you know, maybe Kaido was interested in having an heir or something like that. You know, like, I want someone to carry on my legacy to help take over the world. And then Queen was like, well, I do have access to this cloning technology. I could extract some of your lineage factor and see what could happen. And so Kaido's like, all right, give it a shot. And then maybe that's how Yamato came into existence. So Yamato might very well have the lineage factor of the dragon fruit without actually eating the dragon fruit. It really brings to question a lot of different ideas of like lineage and DNA and devil fruit genetics and all that. And once again, going back to that idea that Big Mom, of course, had a bunch of children and none of her kids exhibited the traits of the soul fruit. I was like, well, that just proves right there that it doesn't transfer genetically. But then again, Queen and Judge, they were kind of really messing with the genes and the lineage factor. They were screwing with DNA in a way that is not natural, okay? So the way Queen might have done it was just like, oh yes, I could take your lineage factor, Kaido, and I could create a clone that has all of the powers of your dragon fruit. And Kaido's like, sweet, I'm gonna go get drunk. He's like, yeah, alright, so that's a very supportive father, Kaido. Very supportive father. That got kind of dark, but okay. Might be something like that. I just want to throw out the idea there because Yamato's mother has not even been acknowledged a single time, right? At least with Big Mom and her husbands, they were at least explained, like, how that worked, okay? And we even got to see Pound, okay? So, there's a situation there with that. If this was the case, and Yamato was, let's say, a clone of Kaido, would Yamato know about this? Or would that be something that Kaido kept secret? And so and during the fight could be a situation where they're brawling and then it's just like, Yamato, do you know the truth? You are a clone of me! And Yamato's like, that's not true! That's not possible! And just like, it is! Such are feelings! You can also, like, let's assume Yamato could also turn into a giant dragon, It's just like, search your feelings! And the fact you can also turn into a giant dragon, whereas I can also turn into a giant dragon, and you have no memory of eating a devil fruit. You know it to be true, Yamato! Yamato's like, no! And then during that moment, Kaido, like, BAM! The finishing blow, and then that's when Yamato maybe gets knocked out or really injured, and then Luffy shows up like, Yamato, no! So, like, keep that on the table, but, like, this would be the perfect time to find out about it. As Yamato and Kaido are clashing, we get, like, with every clash they make, it's like, boom, flashback, boom, flashback, right? It's like, you never wanted to accept me for who I really was, Kozuki Oden this whole time, and just like, Kozuki Oden, okay, Kaido has a complicated relationship to Kozuki Oden, like, there's a lot of stuff going on with that. It's beyond just a simple rivalry, right? It's beyond just like, Oden was this really strong samurai that cut me one time. No, it's like, for 20 years, Kaido has been kind of ruminating on this idea of just like, what's with the Kozuki clan? And just to picture this as sake. Like what's up with the Kozuki clan? And what did what did Oden really mean? And what's up with this Joy Boy prophecy? Just like, I don't understand, Oden. I don't understand. And now my own son wants to be Oden. I need more booze, So there's a whole layer there where Kaido is interested in like what the Kozuki clan is and something more. I imagine Kaido probably has a lot of regret of shooting Oden in the face when he did. He's probably like, man, I kind of had a few more questions to ask that dude. I probably should have waited a while to kill him, but hey, what are you gonna do, right? I mean, I guess you can't go back in time. You can only go forward in time, apparently. So now going into more of like how the actual fight would go, okay? Because I've been kind of ambiguous on that. Let's just disregard Devil Fruit abilities for right now, at least with Yamato. Obviously, Kaido can do the dragon. He's gonna have the dragon form. He's gonna be able to do the Boro breaths and the lightning and all that kind of crap. So Yamato might be able to transform into something. We'll see how that goes. Let's talk about Haki, alright? So obviously, Yamato has shown to have really strong armament Haki, the same way that Kaido uses his Kanabo. Yamato, the Kanabo is very similar. The only difference is obviously it's smaller and it has more of a blunt end to it rather than Kaido's that has like a more spiky end to it. But we saw Yamato was capable of using armament Haki. Observation probably is a given. Like at this point in the story, like when you have these really powerful characters, especially that are like right under Yonko, like Katakuri was right under Big Mom. He had observation and armament. Like that's going to be a standard at that point. Conqueror's Haki. I would say Yamato has that, alright? Especially since, We were assuming that, like, the black lightning shit that was coming off of Kaido's Kanabo, like when he fought Luffy and stuff, like, oh, that obviously has to be an extension of armament. But from now, what we've seen with this combination of, like, Wano Ryuo, which is armament, can also mix with Conquerors, it's kind of at that point, all right? So it can kind of represent both, from what I understand, okay? Or it doesn't have to be the same level. Like, obviously, Kaido is a lot older than Yamato, so he's been training with his Conqueror's Haki for years, possibly decades. And so, like I said, I did a video where I talked about how, like, Kaido's Kanabo is probably very important to him because he's so used to channeling his armament and his Conquerors into that specific weapon to fight. So if that thing actually happened where Luffy managed to crack Kaido's Kanabo, it could be either way. It could be like, oh, it was just the lightning that made it look like a crack, or it could be an actual crack. If Kaido's Kanabo were to be destroyed, that might actually screw up how he fights because he's not used to using his Conquerors in, like, a fist. Or we know Kaido skips leg days, so maybe Sanji should fight Kaido. That would be the perfect matchup right there, right? Sanji shows up and he's just like, I did not skip leg day, and you clearly did, so this isn't going to go very far. But my point is, Yamato might have a very similar fighting style because of the similar weapons, right? It's very interesting that Yamato, claims to be Kozuki Oden and all about Kozuki Oden. Kozuki Oden did not use a Kanabo as his main weapon, right? Oden, of course, used his Nitoryu. He had Ame no Habakiri and Enma, all right? So you'd think Yamato would use swords, but no, Yamato uses a Kanabo, like Kaido. So it's very clear that Yamato's fighting style is indicative of Kaido. Kaido taught Yamato how to fight. And obviously Yamato didn't just reject that, like, no, father, I want to go fight with swords like Oden did. And, Kaido might have actually forced Yamato, like, no, you're gonna learn how to fight with the Kanabo and you're gonna like it. Right, it's a club weapon. All of the members of the Kaido family fight with this, And so it's a very similar weapon. It's just a little bit different in terms of the style. But Yamato might have that same basic idea of, like, combining Conqueror's Haki and armament into the Kanabo. Now, when Yamato used this technique against Ulti kind of made fun of it. Like, it's in the Viz translation, instead of a Thunder Bagara, it was a Blunder Bagara. And I think in Japanese, it's Kaido's is like 8 trigrams, which makes the Hyuga clan reference even more apt at that point, whereas Ulti referred to Yamato's technique as 4 trigrams, or like half as strong as Kaido's, okay? So it's the basic concept of combining, at least armament into the Kanabo, and this already a blunt weapon with an armament to make an even more potent blunt weapon. But, I don't think at the end of the day, if it comes down to just Kaido and Yamato brawling with their war clubs, Kaido's gonna be the one to come out on top, okay? Obviously, Kaido can turn into a dragon and fire lasers and lightning and stuff, so unless Yamato has other, like, really powerful transformation, like a Byakko or something else mythical, or just a giant dinosaur that can, like, stomp right through the wind and the lightning, or, such a tough dragon hide, or, like, a dinosaur hide, so to speak. So, like, Kaido brings down the lightning, and Yamato transforms into a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and just, roar, and is, like, shooting the lightning, and it's just bouncing off of Yamato's, like, hardened hide. That would be really cool. That would be awesome. But, other than that, Yamato really has to have something here to bring to the fight. Beyond that, I think Kaido is probably going to win this if it was just a straight up brawl between two of them. But, Luffy might show up, somebody else might show up to help out the fight, although I can't really imagine who else would show up at that one particular instance. I was gonna say Sanji, but we know Sanji is fighting against Queen right now, so that's not the case. So yeah, it'll probably just be Yamato versus Kaido for a while until, Luffy shows back up. But yeah, that's the situation there. Let me know down below what you think, what you expect from this fight between Kaido and Yamato. I just really hope, like I said, it's not just like, before the main event, we have Kaido versus Yamato as a little bit of just a warm-up match. I hope there's more to it than that. We find out some lore, some exposition between the two, okay? And that maybe sheds some light on a lot of stuff. But there's a lot of angles you could take this, just like, this is why mom left, Kaido! Bam! He's like, your mother! She left of her own, like, fighting, like, or it could be like, you're a clone, or it'd be like something else going on here. Like, I have no idea, but, let's talk about that below. That's what the comments are for. Anyway, so, yeah, that's that. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoyed Ant Facts. This is Tekking, this is Barry, signing out. Have a good one, everyone.